Kobbie Mainoo sat motionless on the bench again, watching the clock tick away, minute after minute, until the final whistle blew. And his name was never called. They say he's in direct competition with Bruno Fernandes. That's what Ruben Amorim told the press. On the surface, it makes sense. At Manchester United, every player is expected to fight for his place. But let's be honest, putting Mainoo up against Bruno is hardly a fair comparison. Bruno is the captain, the untouchable face of the team in every system. And Mainoo? He's just 19, a kid who lit up the stage last season, now reduced to a spectator. The bitter truth is that Amorim says Mainoo has to prove himself in training, that he must fight to take Bruno's spot. But when has Bruno ever been dropped to give the youngster a chance? In both Premier League openers this season, Bruno started. Mason Mount was rotated. Manuel Ugarte got minutes. But Mainoo, he was left warming up on the touchline. Competition is one thing, football is built on it. But surely the boy deserves at least a few minutes to show what he can do. Words are cheap, reality is harsher. At 19, Mainoo isn't asking to be the center of the universe. He just wants a stage, a chance to prove why all of England hailed him as Manchester United's new jewel only a season ago. But under Amorim, competition seems to mean sitting and watching, a battle where one side is allowed to keep their seat forever, while the other is never even handed a weapon. If this continues, it's no surprise that the media whisper he's already thinking about leaving Old Trafford. After all, this is a teenager who just won United's Young Player of the Year award, who started for England at the Euros, yet now finds himself sidelined because the manager refuses to touch the captain's sacred status. It's hard to say who's right or wrong. Amorim has his reasons. Bruno is safe, experienced, reliable. But if an entire season slips by without Mainoo being tested, those reasons will turn into one colossal waste. Bruno may be ahead in many areas, but Mainoo will never close that gap unless he's given minutes. Without a stage, without those moments, every comparison is meaningless. And the cruelest part, the very man who should be creating the environment for him to grow, his manager, is the one blocking the door. Look around. Max Daumann, only 15, came off the bench for Arsenal and won a penalty. Rio Ngumoha, just 16, scored a historic goal for Liverpool in the 100th minute. Estevão pulled on a Chelsea shirt in the Premier League opener as if he belonged. And then there's Mainoo, 19 going on 20, still nailed to the bench. These are supposed to be the golden years, when a young footballer makes mistakes, learns, builds experience minute by minute. Yet while his peers at rival giants are shining, Mainoo is forced to waste the precious time that should be the radiant beginning of his career. That's the real pain. Not being behind, but never even being given the chance to prove he can stand shoulder to shoulder with the very best. By now, Kobbie Mainoo probably understands his own story all too well. He's no longer the bright-eyed academy graduate from last season, wide-eyed with dreams. He's seen enough to realize that the current landscape at Manchester United offers him no clear path forward. So he stays silent. No protests, no complaints to the press, no criticism of anyone. That silence itself is an admission. His development is no longer in his own hands at Old Trafford. And so Mainoo has started to open his mind to the idea of leaving. Don't blame him for that. His love for Manchester United hasn't faded. But love alone isn't enough if you're not given the stage to perform. A young player needs to play, to be tested, to make mistakes and grow. If United can't provide that, then seeking a new home is not betrayal. It's the only way forward. Mainoo isn't running away. He simply wants to keep moving. In the days ahead, he'll have to sit down and think carefully about his future. Walking away will hurt. Old Trafford is the place that raised him. But sometimes, to preserve your love for a place, the best choice is to step out and begin a new journey. A journey that truly gives you the development you need at 20 years old. If Mainoo does leave Manchester United, there's little doubt that a long line of clubs will be waiting. Reports suggest more than 10 teams, from the Premier League to Europe's heavyweights, are already circling. And among them, Real Madrid stand out as one of the most serious contenders. What's fascinating is that all summer long, Real Madrid refused to get dragged into the midfield market, despite constant media speculation. Time after time, they shook their heads, dismissing names that seemed like a fit. The reason? Not good enough for the royal white shirt. Real Madrid don't buy just to buy. They don't collect players for the sake of it. They act only when they see a name worth building the future around. And that's exactly why Mainoo's story feels different. His potential is no longer a question mark. He's shown it with Manchester United. He's shown it with England. He's not a gamble. He's a project. A midfielder to anchor the future. At barely 20, he already carries a maturity beyond his years, an ability to dictate and control games that belies his age. Place him alongside Bellingham, Camavinga, Tchouaméni, and you're looking at a midfield not just for today, but for the next decade. Real Madrid, proud and selective as they are, will not ignore a gem like this. And if that vision becomes reality, no one will be shocked. Because Mainoo has the talent to wear white, and Madrid always know when to strike for the most deserving names. Meanwhile, Dani Ceballos has officially expressed his desire to leave the Bernabeu, with Olympique Marseille already opening talks. They want a loan with a buy option. For Ceballos, the move makes sense. At Real Madrid, his minutes are scarce, and with the 2026 World Cup on the horizon, playing time has never been more urgent. But Madrid haven't signed off just yet. The reason is clear. Xabi Alonso doesn't want to lose him without a replacement. Ceballos' experience is still vital in a long and brutal season. Sell without buying, and the midfield suddenly looks thin when the fixtures pile up. Which is why Real Madrid are listening, waiting, planning. They're ready to sell, but only once the right name comes in to fill the gap. And maybe, just maybe, Kobbie Mainoo is that name. If so, the Ceballos deal could be the trigger. The only hope is that if Madrid really do move, they don't wait until it's too late. If Kobbie Mainoo were to land at Real Madrid, the most natural place for him would be in central midfield, within the 3-4-2-1 structure Xabi Alonso has been operating. In this setup, Alonso usually deploys a double pivot, two midfielders working in tandem, shielding the defense while feeding the attack. Mainoo could slot seamlessly next to Aurélien Tchouaméni or Eduardo Camavinga in that role, battling in midfield, escaping the press from deep, and distributing the ball up to Jude Bellingham and the attacking line ahead of him. It's a perfect stage for him. The system would maximize his strengths: close control in tight spaces, composure under pressure, and vision in picking out progressive passes. And Alonso is no rigid tactician. He shifts between a 3-4-2-1, a 4-3-3, and even systems where he frees up a youngster like Arda Güler to play as an attacking midfielder behind the striker. In that context, Mainoo could also be tested higher up the pitch, as a number 8 or even a more advanced midfielder, given more freedom to press break lines and create chances. The key difference is this: at Real Madrid, Mainoo would not be boxed in or frozen out the way he has been at Manchester United. Instead, he'd be given the tactical environment to thrive, to grow into the intelligent, multifunctional midfielder he already shows signs of becoming. In short, the Bernabeu could offer him not just minutes, but a platform, a place where he can learn from the world's very best and slowly establish himself as a vital cog in the Xabi Alonso machine. But there's another layer to this story, one that feels almost political. Ruben Amorim hasn't just benched Mainoo. He's turned the situation into a club-wide dilemma by openly declaring that the youngster must compete with Bruno Fernandes. In doing so, he's essentially forced Manchester United into a choice. Do they back their captain Bruno, the established leader and current symbol of the club, or do they clear the path for Mainoo, the teenage jewel many see as the future? Look closely, and Amorim's actions match his words. By keeping Bruno on the pitch for every minute, he ensures Mainoo has no chance to stake his claim. That, in turn, drags the club into an uncomfortable reality: continue building around Bruno, or dare to sacrifice in order to unlock a new generation. And now, with Mainoo reportedly open to leaving, the tension sharpens even further. It's no longer just a footballing issue. It's a test. A question Amorim has placed squarely on the table for United's owners and board. Do you cling to the old, or do you risk change for the future? Is this Amorim's true intention, or simply the natural consequence of his rotation choices? No one can say for sure. But what's undeniable is that through both words and actions, Amorim has pushed the Mainoo versus Bruno debate far beyond the pitch. It has become a strategic crossroads for Manchester United, and perhaps only the closing days of the transfer window will reveal which path they are truly willing to take.